The Tennessee Titans made the playoffs this season. Even though they made the playoffs, they still parted ways with their head coach Mike Mularkey, and then they hired Mike Vrabel. So the Titans, they're pretty set on offense. So as you can see in this draft board behind me, I have three things that I think the Titans might address with this 25th overall pick. Like I said, that they seem pretty stacked on offense. They seem locked and loaded. They got Marcus Mariota at quarterback. They've got a solid running tandem in DeMarco Murray and Derrick Henry. And they got a tight end in Delaney Walker. They got wide receivers in Corey Davis and Rashard Matthews. So they're pretty set on offense. And they got a pretty solid offensive line with Jack Conklin and Terry Lewan leading the way. But they could use they can use an offensive guard to really be a force with offensive line. They could end up maybe they could try to form the AFC's version of the Dallas Cowboys offensive line with a pick like this. Maybe they could try that. Or a defensive end or a cornerback. That's what I think this pick might be, because Mike Vrabel, being a defensive coordinator, he seems to be a defensive guy. That's what a lot of new head coaches do. They draft somebody with a position that they're most comfortable with. Like typically you see coaches that were former defensive coordinators. They tend to go with the popular decision and go with a player with a defensive position first, with a first round pick. That's what tends to be the agenda for new coaches that were former coordinators, whether it's offense or defense. There are a couple of exceptions, of course. But the 49ers, they're known for going defense first, especially with John Lynch as the GM, because John Lynch is a defensive guy that knows defensive talent. And Dan Quinn has gone with defense in each of his first 3 NFL drafts as the head coach of the Atlanta Falcons. So that's kind of the trend that we see. So that's what I think the pick might be, a defensive end or a cornerback. But maybe they can't pass on an offensive guard. I've been seeing some things about Isaiah Wynn, the offensive guard out of Georgia, being in a couple of the first round mock drafts. He's up there toward this kind of range, in between the range of 23 to 31, around that range. But it might be too early for somebody like Isaiah Wynn out of Georgia. Of course, we still got to know how the combine goes. We got to know how pro day goes. But I think it might be too early for somebody like Isaiah Wynn to be selected here. So that's why I'm leaning towards the 25th pick being a defensive end or a cornerback. Or the Titans might pick up a defensive end or a corner in free agency. Maybe the Titans are in the running for Malcolm Butler, even though I really doubt that. Because Malcolm Butler seems like somebody that can go anywhere he wants. I think the Titans might sign one of these two positions, maybe even one of these three. They might take care of one of these in free agency. But if the draft was tonight, I think the pick would be either a defensive end or a cornerback. That's what I think the pick would be. Unless all the corners that are first round talentable, are all selected, then they might go offensive guard. They might go with somebody like Isaiah Wynn. Although I think Isaiah Wynn, the highest I think Isaiah Wynn might be is early second round, maybe within the first 3 or 4 picks. So the pick could be Isaiah Wynn. Or the Panthers might go Isaiah Wynn, the offensive guard out of Georgia. But I think the pick might end up being defensive end or corner. Of course, depending on what shuffles out in front of the Titans. Because we're in the range where we see second round graded prospects end up falling toward the later portion of the first round. That's the range where we're at in this mock draft area. But the Titans, they're kind of an unpredictable thing, because they are a team that can make a run in a couple of years. because they seem stacked on offense. They've got a young quarterback in Marcus Mariota. They've got a solid 1-2 punch in DeMarco Murray and Derrick Henry. They've got a pretty solid wide receiver core. So I think the pick is going to be one of these two defensive positions, since Mike Vrabel is a defensive guy.